Welcome back to the Tip TV Health Show. I'm joined by Dr. Charlie Easmon. I've got that right yet again. Dr. Charlie from Harley. Let's talk diabetes. Now, my father, when he was alive, he had diabetes, and he tended to ignore it. He would basically not drink alcohol the day before he was having his tests. He would go to bed early. Okay, he was trying to cheat the system. He didn't take it seriously. Diabetes is a very, very serious illness, isn't it?
It is, and as you say, lots of people try to cheat systems, but you can't cheat diabetes because it's about the blood levels of the sugar in your body. Now, the body is supposed to reduce sugar levels. So you take sugar in, and the body is supposed to reduce that. But if the body doesn't have the right amounts of insulin, or is resistant to insulin, then you get the problem. So we divide diabetes into two types, which we normally call type 1 and type 2, or also known as non-insulin dependent and insulin dependent. Now, with insulin dependent, you obviously need insulin. So you need the specific medication that will reduce your sugar levels. Prior to 1920, believe it or not, everyone who needed insulin and couldn't get it died. It was
as simple as that?
It was a death sentence.
Wow.
And it was Banting and Bess, who did the research, who then won the Nobel Prize for it, who discovered insulin. So prior to that, anyone who had insulin-dependent diabetes was going to be a goner, full stop. We now have insulin. Now, those who are in the other category don't require insulin, but they do need to control their blood sugars. And the reason they need to control them is that if they don't, that sugar is having a toxic effect on the eyes, it's having a toxic effect on the nervous system, and it's having a toxic effect on the kidneys, and can lead to kidney failure, blindness, and obviously nerve disorders as well.
Okay, so how do you get diabetes?
Right. So we think that some of it may be autoimmune disease. So that's where your own body is attacking its own cells. Why that occurs, we still don't know.
Right.
Some of it seems to have a genetic pattern.
Okay.
And some of it is related to obesity.
Okay.
So while we've seen the huge rise in obesity, and by the way, Britain is known as the fat man of Europe, we have a problem here. We are seeing rises in diabetes alongside that.
Right. So I probably have too much beer. I probably eat too many roast dinners on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Is there any factors in my life that I should reduce with a view to diabetes?
Absolutely.
Avoiding it in the future?
Yeah, I think certainly cutting back on sugar, and there's a fantastic website set up by a colleague of mine, Professor Graham McGregor, called Action on Sugar. And what Graham has done is he's provided the public within that website fantastic advice on where to find which foods have too much sugar in them.
So give me 3 foods that have got too much sugar in.
Yeah, I think obviously something like pizza can be very excessive. Funnily enough, a lot of sweets, you know, obviously if you go to the cinema and you have your big tub of popcorn, that's going to be a problem. And a lot of desserts as well. I'm very concerned at the moment because the advertising industry, the food industry, obviously is trying to reverse all our best advice. And some of their advertising is encouraging kids to snack more than they should.
Right. So I go to bed every night. If I have a bar of chocolate once a day and a small bar, is that too much?
It probably is too much. My ex-wife, actually, funnily enough, you can tell how much she'd had because there were all the wrappers in the car. And she'd deny it. And if you added all your wrappers up by the end of the day, you'd probably find it was way too much. So I definitely recommend you go on to Action on Sugar. You'll see the recommended amounts, and you'll probably see that the content of the sugar in the bars that you're taking is probably higher than you should take on a regular basis.
Understood.
But if you want a refreshing snack at the end of the day, you could have a banana, you could have nuts. You know, there are other ways of dealing with it.
So alternatives.
Exactly.
Okay, so a bar of chocolate a day, probably not a great idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's take a quick break, then we're going to come back for part 3. Liver disease. I'm particularly interested in that one.